When Horizon Zero Dawn was first announced, I was a bit skeptical. I was interested because the world looked really interesting. I was a little turned off by the robot dinosaurs, but as it progressed and it got developed more, I got intrigued more and more. And plus, it was the people who did Killzone, so what's not to love? Hey guys, I'm Wülf from Pop Culture Critics, and this is our first video game review. I'm reviewing Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is developed by Guerrilla Games, the same people who did the Killzone franchise, and this is a very different take from their usual games. They usually do first-person shooters, so to do a third-person action RPG that's open world, like almost as big as Skyrim, is really, really ambitious. And they seem to pull it off flawlessly, because this is a beautiful, beautiful game. Like, I found myself just taking a break from the story and the side quests just to admire the scenery. Like, take a look at some of these shots that I've taken. The world to Horizon Zero Dawn is a very interesting one. It takes place in the 31st century. A couple thousand years ago, there was a cyber apocalypse, which literally destroyed humanity except for a handful of few. These handful were then, I think, put into cryosleep and then sent into the world in the 31st century. Now, during that time, the Earth has kind of given life back, and like there's lush forests, long mountain ranges, empty deserts, stuff like that. And it was up to us, humanity, to kind of get a second chance at life. We did this by going back to kind of primitive Native American styled tribes. There are 4 tribes in total: the Nora, the Karja, the Oseram, and the Banuk. Each with their own unique kind of culture and style that they use. For instance, the Nora specializes in hunting and being sneaky and stealthy. The Karja specialize in war and are like soldiers. The Oseram are tinkerers and like to mess with technology and stuff like that. And then the Banuk are more shamanistic. And they each all live in their own separate areas. Again, the Nora lives in the forests. The Karja and the Oseram share the deserts. And then the Banuk live in the wide mountain ranges up in the north. And that brings us to our main character, Aloy, voiced by Ashley Birch. Aloy is a Nora huntress who was outcast when she was born for being motherless, and she needs to prove herself in the Nora games called The Proving, which would allow her to become one with the Nora tribe. However, during The Proving, a small band of rebel Karja members known as the Shadow Karja invade the Nora grounds and massacre The Proving. After surviving the massacre, Aloy is nursed to health and makes it her mission to seek out the leader of the Shadow Karja and seek justice for the Nora. And while on her mission of justice, Aloy learns more about the world that came before and the ones before, and learns more about herself and how she came into this world. And this leads into some really intriguing and interesting story moments. There are moments where I was amazed and just wowed at how humanity could let this happen and how Aloy has to deal with not really being herself and not being born naturally. I'm avoiding spoilers, but it's a really intriguing story, and there's a certain character that she meets that just, there's so much mystery around him that you want to know more. And these story moments open up some really good character development for Aloy. Aloy was developed so well in this game. Like, she starts off very, very likable, and she just becomes more relatable as you go through the story. So let's talk about gameplay. How do I put this? It's Assassin's Creed meets Uncharted meets Tomb Raider reboots. Yeah. So, it's an archery-based game, and take the archery from Tomb Raider and just smooth that out. It feels so smooth. And because it's an open world, you can climb on certain surfaces of rock. And it feels like Assassin's Creed mixed with Uncharted, whereas in Assassin's Creed, when you jumped onto a ledge or you wanted to climb, you would magnetize to the wall. unlike in Uncharted where it felt more natural. But here, it's really smooth. It's got the fluidity of the Assassin's Creed climbing, but the smoothness of Uncharted. Like, it's that good. Combat gameplay is also done very well. You have a various wheel of weapons you have to choose from. You have your hunter bow, which fires, your piercing shots, your fire shots. Then you got your war bow, which does more elemental, like corruption, ice, and electric. Then you got your actual sniper bow, which does more damage, but it takes longer to pull back and release. Then, of course, you have your trap weapons. You have your rope caster, which is used to tie down enemies that are either flying or really big. You can use it to tie them down and immobilize them. And then there's the trip caster, which you can use to pin to 2 different surfaces to make tripwires, which makes really good for enemies that like to run a lot. There's also the slings. I never use these much, but these are good if you just want to do some massive elemental damage, like massive fire damage, ice damage, electric damage, etc. Then there's your melee weapon. You have a spear that can also hack enemies. You can sneak up to them and stab them, and you can hack them and make them your own. They will fight for you, or you can mount them. You can't hack every enemy at once, though. What you have to do is you have to go through these dungeons called cauldrons, and at the end of the dungeon, you unlock an ability that will allow you to hack higher level and larger enemies. As flawless as this game is, it's not without its faults. There are a few things that I didn't really like and that I think need changing. One of them being the mounted controls, the controls when mounted. At first, when I first played this game, I didn't think anything of it, but after playing Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and then coming back to play this, it was very clunky and awkward, and I kept running into things when I didn't want to, and the steering was just off, and it just felt really, really bad. But it's not too bad. If you can get over it, then awesome. But for me, after getting back into it, I couldn't do it. And the fact that this game doesn't have an auto-tracking system doesn't really help. I mean, let's be fair. It has a good auto-tracking when it comes to missions, errands, and side quests. But if you place a custom marker, it just shows you where it is on the map, and you have to find your own route. And for someone who is not very good at navigation, this is a problem for me. And unlike Legend of Zelda or The Witcher 3, you cannot your mount will not auto-walk. It doesn't walk on its own. You have to constantly steer it, and you have to constantly push the X button to keep it moving. And when you're in combat, it moves slower for some reason, which just makes it even worse. So I don't know what they were really thinking with it. It's not the best mount system. Another thing that needs to be fixed, or not fixed, but just another downside, is the melee. And this comes with any kind of shooter game. The melee has always just kind of been poor. But this one, it's better than others, but it's still very clunky, and it still feels a little awkward. There are times where I'll try and melee someone, but then Aloy will go the completely opposite way, and it's like, what are you doing, Aloy? I didn't even go that way. Like, come on. And it's just annoying, but it's not too much to distract from the overall game. And overall, this game is amazing. Like, even though it's got flaws, it's very few and they're very minor. I don't see much wrong with this game. If you own a PlayStation 4, you need to go get this game. Go get it right now. It is an amazing game, and any PlayStation owner needs to play this. Which is why I give this game a 10 out of 10. It's a perfect score. Not because it's a perfect game, but because this is the game that I'm going to compare other open world third-person action RPG games to. Like, this is that good that this is what holds the bar. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. I'm going to be doing more of these reviews more often, probably once a month. So until then, thanks for watching. I've been Wülf, and this is Pop Culture Critics, signing off.